Welcome everybody. My name is Mary Mehmet. I'm a volunteer from Transition Framingham and a community gardener myself. I love community gardening. Someone here just asked if we have any plots left in the garden I'm in on the north side, and I had to say no. So I think that's good evidence that we need more gardens in Framingham. I also want to tell you a little bit about my organization that I volunteer for. It's called Transition Framingham. We've been around since about 2012. If you've worked with Transition Framingham at any time, give a little shout, a little hey. We've been working to move Framingham from fossil fuel dependence to local resilience during that time, which sounds very serious, fossil fuel dependence. But our other motto is everything we do should be more like a party than a protest. So we always have snacks and we always have a good time. If you get involved with us, you will learn more about that. And over the past 13 years, we've done many garden tours in Framingham looking at vegetable gardeners, and that's been one of the things where we felt that party joy. You go into someone's vegetable garden, they give you free tomatoes, they tell you there are 20 different methods for growing bigger tomatoes. It is nothing but fun, okay? We love vegetable gardening, and we feel like it will bring that spirit of community, resilience, and a party to Framingham, and we're hoping to sponsor that in more neighborhoods. One thing about Framingham, again, is we don't have a lot of community gardens, and the ones that we have are not fully accessible. So that's why we worked with the Community Preservation Committee to do some design studies to build new community gardens in Framingham that will be in neighborhoods that don't have access yet, and that will be fully accessible to people of all abilities. Yeah. So with this CPA grant, we want to recognize anyone who's been involved with the CPA or CPC or supported in any way. We're so grateful. We can begin the process of bringing the joy of gardening to everyone in Framingham, wherever they live, and we'll have more tomatoes and more fun. So thank you for joining us in this process. All right, now I have to say a bunch of thank yous. We're very grateful to the Department of Planning and Community Development. If Sarkis is here, we want to say thank you to him. Anyone else from planning? All right, anyone else from planning? We're so grateful. Parks and Rec, Jim Snyder has been super supportive. Everyone from Parks and Rec, please give them a big round of applause for helping us set up this event. The Ag Committee, anyone from the Agriculture Advisory Committee? If not, they've been fabulous sponsors. Anyone, again, involved with CPC? Thank you so much. And the Colburnville Tripoli Neighborhood Association. All right. And then there's a long list of other people who've been helpful. City councilors, any city councilors, current and former, we're thankful for your support. The mayor's office, and I would like to specifically recognize the councilor for this district, Leslie White Harvey, wants to say something. Come on up.
Hey, thank you everyone, and thank you for coming. Can everybody hear me? I'm really excited for a lucky district. As we say, we have a lot of open space here. I'm really proud of the groups that have taken on the challenge so we can have community gardens here. We're already talking about expansions, I think, and thank you for everyone who's been involved. I hope we focus most on the word community. I know it's a garden, but community where everybody feels included and a part of the community garden, and given an opportunity to really help support the garden, clean, plant, and etc. Because we have a lot of different families here, and we'll definitely try to do a fantastic job to reach out to more residents of all different backgrounds so they can be a part of our gardens. And thank you very much for the opportunity. As I said, we're proud of and lucky we have a district with such beautiful open space. And once again, thank you to all the departments of the city that has supported us, Transition Framingham, for the mission. So thank you everyone, and welcome to our home.
I also don't want to neglect the state. I see our state rep, Priscilla Souza, here too. Thank you for all the state does to support the Community Preservation Act. So thank you. Okay, now I want to tell you how this meeting is going to go. So again, more like a party than a protest, but we want to hear everybody's ideas, and you will have your opportunity. First, our consulting firm, RDLA, is going to give an overview of the project. They're already really doing a great job holding up their board. That's what you go to architecture school for, right? And then Ray's going to show us the site analysis plan for the park. Then we want to hear from you, and we're going to have a Q&A part where you can come up to the microphone and please ask questions, all questions, and just save that for that Q&A part, please. Finally, we have some activities we want you to participate in during the final portion of the meeting, involving some walking around the park or possibly looking at another board to give us ideas. And very finally, make sure you don't leave without, especially from the folks in the neighborhood, without filling out a questionnaire. I'll be at that table over there with questionnaires on a clipboard, very brief, just to get your feedback, positive, negative, and everything in between. We want to hear from you. So that we will adjourn at 2 o'clock. We'll be done if we haven't blown away by then. And then a couple more housekeeping things. If you haven't noticed, the meeting is being recorded. Please again hold your questions until Q&A after the presentation. When that time comes, please come up to the microphone. Again, we have Spanish and Portuguese translation available if you need it. And again, questionnaires at the end. They're on a very brief on a piece of paper. Please do fill it out. And so without further ado, we're going to hear from Ray. Thank you.
Do I have a volunteer to take my place holding the board? We didn't wind tunnel this setup here, but thank you all for coming. My name is Ray Dunitz, principal with Ray Dunitz Landscape Architecture. We shortened that to RDLA because it's very long the other way. With me, I have Marco Sanchez from our office. If you have any questions, feel free to come up and ask us later. We primarily design public parks and community gardens, so this project is very much in our wheelhouse, and we're really excited to be working with Transition Framingham on this. So we were originally hired with the goals of developing design for community gardens here at Roosevelt Park and also Bates Road Park, a little bit further south from here. Our mission is to design a master plan which will, there'll be some conceptual design, but we're really not going to design the gardens at this point. Our work is to generate estimates so we can seek future funding for this garden. So our three priorities for the project here is not only to design a beautiful garden, but have accessible and universal access design with fully accessible plant beds. We will also look at some of the circulation around the park to make sure all paths and walkways are accessible, and looking at everything through a lens of sustainability and environmental design. And that means try to limit the impact on the park, on the neighborhood. Any stormwater issues will be addressed naturally and really contributing to the environment. And of course, all these plants will provide some habitat for pollinators and that kind of thing. And also, we want to make sure that we respond to your needs. So today, we'd like to get your feedback on what you would like to see in a garden here, and we'll get into some exercises a little bit later. But we want to be responsive to your ideas. So we're not coming here and just designing a garden. We want to listen to you first, take your thoughts and ideas back to our office and come up with something that works. So I also want to say that this park is fantastic for a community garden. We actually have 2 potential locations for it. So getting input on where the gardens, your preference on where the gardens might sit, will be awesome. And then we will follow up with, we have a board here, and it features different elements of a community garden that you can choose what you'd like to see there. So we started the project in early February, had a kickoff meeting February 20th. We walked the site with the working group here and took pictures and talked about the opportunities and challenges of the site. And we're going to be meeting at a second meeting, location to be determined, to come back with you with some concepts to get further feedback. Once we get the final feedback, we'll work with the working group to come up with a final schematic conceptual design and then generate cost estimates for how much it's going to cost to build that. So just to show you where we are right now, you are here. Um, we have Seminole Avenue here, Fay Road over there. Just to give you a situation, the park is approximately 3.8 acres. From what I understand, it was a former school site. We have some nice rolling topography here, shade structures, playgrounds, swings, a nice loop path, site furnishings, a gateway that kind of memorializes the former school, and huge lawn area, basketball court as well. Um, the the park itself has a topographical change of 18 feet from the high point to the low point. Some, as I mentioned before, some of the grades along the walkways exceed ADA accessibility. The requirement is to have a pitch no greater than 1 foot over 20 feet. And we're fortunate we're not with any sort of environmental jurisdictions here with wetlands and buffer zones. The majority of the park is sunny. We're very fortunate. We were originally going to have this meeting last weekend, and we're very fortunate to have a beautiful sunny day today. Um, these the sun basically casts shadows this way, so most of the park area will get sun, which is it was perfect for a community garden use. And the soils are very well draining here. I won't get into technical details, but it's the soils from former glacial deposits, and it's very well draining. We have and all of this is on the board here, timber guardrail along Seminole Avenue with openings for pedestrians. There is a maintenance gate for maintenance vehicles to get in on there. This side is all secured with chain link fences along the abutting residential homes. There are 7 pedestrian entrances, so it's very accessible. There is an entrance along DeSoto Avenue here as well. And we have 4 parking spaces over there, street parking along Seminole, and that provides nice access. That may influence your decision on where you'd like to see the community garden. And I'm going to try to turn my page in the wind here. So you're probably too far away to see this board. If you want to come up closer, you can. But there are 2 options for locations. These green bubbles are at either corner of the park along Seminole Avenue. And this one is very close to the intersection of Fay Road and Seminole. And this one is more, in the back of the park here, right in this low area. So they both get a huge amount of sun. This one is a little flatter from an accessibility point of view. That one's a little steeper over there. What else do I have to say on this one? I think that's the general site analysis of the park, and we'd like to discuss today what location is preferable, and then maybe get into a little bit of what you would like to see in this community garden. And if anybody would like to speak, please come up to the microphone. I'll hand it to you, and don't be shy. Okay, come on up.
Hello. I'm a member of the community. We live right next to the park, on the border of the park. One thing that I notice very frequently is where the more oval shape is to the left-hand side of the diagram. In the warmer months, that specific stretch of land is where a lot of local kids used to play soccer. I don't think that stretch of land really gets used for much of anything with the local kids. So, because there's a basketball court, you know, that space has, space for basketball, but lots of kids do like to play soccer. So, I just want to keep that in mind in terms of how we're using the green space. Personally, yes.
Yes.
All right, Stephanie, I live in the yellow house over there. I agree with her because not only is it where kids play, but it's also where the bus stop is. And these kids don't have impulse control, so they'd probably destroy it. Yeah, yeah, no. They've set a fire to a trash can over there in the past. So I'm away from it is great. Um, and how would that affect sledding in the winter? It wouldn't? Okay. All right, cool.
I mean, we can make it very. I mean, this shape is not.
Yeah.
It's just a diagram.
Yeah.
We can make it. We can make it work.
All right. And the other thing was dog walking and dog poop. Because I wonder if that would be a problem with any rain runoff and stuff like that with the garden.
I can address that. So the question was, what about dog walking and picking up dog poop and that kind of thing? This site here, everything is draining towards the fence, so the garden would be uphill of that. Any drainage would not drain into the garden. And in fact, we're considering raised beds anyway for accessibility. Somebody in wheelchair could garden here at at like a table height. So everything will be raised up off the ground. We may have a mixture of some ground level, but that's a very good question. Thank you. Anyone else like to? Yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Esther. I live right over there, and I have 3 little kids, so we're here all the time. One thing that I thought would be interesting about this area, because it's right near the bus stop, is that the kids would be standing there staring at these gardens and hopefully learning about them or being interested in what was in them. And I kind of like that idea. I totally agree that kids play soccer over there. They play soccer all over the place, though. So I was concerned also about the sledding, because you sled down this hill. It's glorious in the winter. So if we had raised beds, that's just something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is John. I live on the other side of Bethany. A few thoughts on what you've laid out and what you haven't laid out. I would think grand. You've got a neighborhood of folks who, as the elderly, need a place to garden. You've got a group of younger families that need vegetables and fresh produce to eat. And you need a garden that has some scale and size to it to be able to accomplish that. And both those sites, while good for an educational community component, aren't going to achieve the latter. And one of the things that wasn't true when you started this exercise is the city now owns 34 acres, which is all of this property on the other side here. And it has a fence along one side. It's worth looking at whether or not, in collaboration with the schools, because they're not going to use all that for a school or schools, you could put in an acre or 2 acres of a community garden that begins to approximate more along the lines of what's on Merchant Road or something, one of the other community gardens that exists in the community, where it's actually something that's producing sustenance for families as opposed to being there. And one of the things to think about is, in addition to the 2-legged people that can't control their impulses, we have lots of very large 4-legged animals that can't control their impulses, and they eat everything. They eat everything. And so the idea of putting it out, they'll see that as a wonderful marketplace for them. but maybe not so much so for us humans. And the same, by the way, Allison, we were talking about for Bates Road. The community is in the process of acquiring property over there, Sarky, that wasn't available before, that is rich, fertile. That soil over there is very rich soil property, and you could easily do that without impacting the recreational uses that are at both locations. Because both of these locations, while they're really nice from a garden perspective, they are in harm's way of soccer, recreation, sledding, and everything else that's part of it. So I would just encourage you to look at that, and there are lots of good organizations to donate and match dollars for CPC, because I know that's an issue. The carpenters are always willing to help build with lumber and size. Um, I would just think big, because you're in a community that is dense, that likes gardening, and would make good use of it. So think big.
Thank you. Thanks. Great comments. Ah, okay. Yes, ma'am.
My name's Annette, and we live right over there in the brick house. And I know during the summertime, particularly when kids are off from school, I think it's a great idea. I love the idea of community gardens, but what I worry about is the destruction that happen because when kids have nothing else to do, I've seen them climb trees, pull branches off the trees, off of the perfectly healthy trees, and if they start seeing something like this, they may do the same thing, because some of these kids, they have nothing else to do, and sometimes that's what they do. And I've seen it because I look out my window and I see all this, and I love the idea. I think it's a great idea, but that's where my concern is, because if you're putting all this dedication into getting your fruits, getting your vegetables and things like that, and you come out one day and why is it all destroyed, you're going to be very upset with that. So that's my thought on that.
Good comment. Thank you. Would anybody else like to? Yep.
I don't get cold. Hi, I'm Mike. I live down on Pershing Ave, and I'm helping Allison with this. But while I was here early, I talked to a couple of neighbors that had some input, so I just wanted to share those because they couldn't be here. So Ray, that lives right in this house right here, he just wanted to share some concerns because his basement floods, and he just wanted whatever we do to be aware that that is a concern of his. So not my concern, but his. And he lives in that house. And then while I was greeting people, the gentleman that owns the White House on the corner here, he had seen the signs and was curious about what was going on, so I engaged him in discussion. And he wanted to throw his hat in the ring that he preferred this location because he really likes kind of the aesthetics of the opening of the park, and doesn't want to kind of disrupt like the openness of the main area of the park, and he thought that this area was the best.
Good. You get that. Who else? Yep. Come on up.
Stephanie again. I was just thinking that maybe a rain garden might help with the drainage if there's stormwater.
Yeah, I just turned around and looked at it, and the water basically just flows right to his basement. So we can talk about it. There are programs for green infrastructure grants and possibly pulling in a rain garden to collect that water before it goes down there. I'm not sure what the hydrology is, but this is a very steep hill and probably just runs right. There's no uphill part there, so. Anyone else? Yeah, come on up.
Hello, my name is Brigitte, and talk about the children, the unruly children. I mean, I heard that there are turkeys and deers anyway, so you have to have a fence anyway. So don't worry about the kids. And you have maybe a little lock or a key combination for the people who have a plot. I don't think that's a problem, because of the protection from the animals anyway.
Thank you. Good point. I have a question for the group. Let's one more question here.
I'm Alice, and I live down on DeSoto, and I can speak a little to the water source. It's both above ground and below ground because we dug a basement this past year, and with lots of rain. It was the water coming into our excavation was both from the sky and from the groundwater because it flows downhill underground as well. Um, so rain garden would be wonderful. I was listening to it and thinking about could it be like something like a community flower picking resource as well as something that to sort of create more buy-in for a more native planting, a little bit more messy look that some people might not be as comfortable with. It's less traditional. And bees. But other water question is, I may have missed it because I got here 10 minutes late, but what's the availability of water to sustain a vegetable garden?
Great question. You caught me forgetting to mention that. So we've mapped this blue dashed line here is the existing water service along Seminole. We've talked with Sarkis about the city bringing a line into the park. We would need a backflow preventer and water meter and that kind of thing, but it is readily available right here. They'd have to trench through the road a little bit to get to the park.
It's also worth noting water is available at the bottom of the site too, on the other side.
Okay, good to know. I just had a question for the group. While I still remember, what should we think about when we design this? The capacity of plots that would work. You don't want to design so many that they go unused, but you also want to have the right number so everybody can get a shot at getting a garden.
Hi, Kendra again. I'm wondering to what degree the plots could almost be sort of subdivided or, connected to a degree. Like if you have a row of 4 plots, if you don't have that many people signed up for the program, congratulations, you get more plots. When you do have more people signed up, overall maybe everyone gets less like square footage in their plot, but it enables everyone to have a couple plants that they take care of generally. I live next door and I have.
Okay.
To put that in perspective, Merchant Road is 61 plots, Pratt Street is 24.
Okay.
And they're both at capacity with waiting lists.
Okay.
And
So-
the one I talked about at the beginning is about 24, and we just hit capacity.
Okay. Good to know.
Without much advertising.
So we're north of 24 for sure.
And if you're connected to the school that's going to potentially, that'll be here someday, you're talking about 400 kids from the neighborhood going to a school, which means 250 families connected to what goes on. You'll have a large draw.
While it's still in my brain, the idea of a rain garden, just so you know, we do have experience designing rain gardens, but not only that, but like providing interpretive and educational signage on how it's working, what kind of birds it'll attract, pollinators, the vegetation. Marco and I are working on one in Lowell right now, in a public park, which has a couple of different interpretive signs. So that could be a cool thing as well.
Just because the topic came up, in terms of other parts of Framingham having waiting lists for their community garden, this is just, I don't want to exclude anyone from participating in a community garden, especially if there's interest, but I'm curious how the city or local communities have balanced local interest versus people from, we live in a very wide city, from fully other parts of Framingham who maybe want to come and garden in this area, how you balance local versus non-local interest.
I think that's not the purpose of this meeting. I understand why you want to go there, but my experience as a community gardener is that it doesn't work out that well for people who are driving from far away to garden. That your first priority always has to be the people from the neighborhood, and that you advertise the neighborhood, you recruit from the neighborhood. and then you get people from the neighborhood. So at the garden where I garden, it's not only people from the neighborhood, but those are the people who are most successful and tend to come back. So and Pratt Street's the same. It's not all people from the neighborhood, but it's mostly, and that's who you recruit, and that's how the word of mouth goes. So that's who cares about it. That's who keeps an eye on it. By natural selection, I'll say it will happen.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you're looking to increase the number of gardens throughout all of the neighborhoods so that people don't have to come just to, drive to get to one. So, yeah. Yep. You want to come up? Oh, okay.
My name's Erica. Hi, everybody. I'm local to the neighborhood. I'm right on the corner right over there. I think this is a great idea. I just had a question about how the parking's going to be managed. We kind of are really clustered over here already. So I know it's kind of touch and go. I missed the first half of the meeting, so I don't know if this has already been talked about. But I'm assuming that this is going to be kind of a build-up right along right here. That's the idea of where the garden's going to go. I'm just curious about that. We have a lot of residential parking.
Can you repeat the question into the microphone?
Oh, sure. What was your name again? Erica, who lives over here, was asking about parking and how the garden may impact parking. That gets back to the point where we want to encourage folks to walk here from the neighborhood. Yeah. And there this is a very large gathering here, and so we've filled all the park. I'm coming from Marco and I are coming from Boston. We're out of towners, but we have several parking spots there, and then it looks like maybe 20 cars. I can't imagine that it's ever going to look like this.
Well, it's not summertime.
And it gets worse, especially when cars are parked over on this side's not so bad sometimes, but when it's parked over on the house side over there, it's awful. And then they start parking on this side, and they only have with one car going down the street.
And it's almost like an emergency issue. A
Yeah.
fire truck has a really tight time.
Okay.
We have a few elderly in the neighborhood that we're always keeping an eye out for.
Well, we'll discuss that as a group. That's a little bit beyond my expertise on how to do that, but I've worked on many community gardens before, and there's just like usually I haven't seen these big ones, but like for the ones if we have 20 gardens here, 20 plots here, then 5, 6, 7 people tops will be working at the same time. They'll come all during the day.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I just
So.
couldn't get the first half, so I don't know the capacity that we're looking at.
Yep. Sir?
Oh, I am just trying to get a view.
Oh, okay. Come on over.
Okay, he wants to see the map.
S-
Yeah, this is why she got elected. Whole big sign. I'm gonna get surveys ready. We get the surveys.
Any other questions? Yes, Diane.
I'm Diane Bassett, and I garden over at Pratt Street, at the community garden there. I think it's important to think about the different kinds of gardeners who you might engage. Some people, a 4x8 bed is fantastic. They're out in the sunshine, they're doing a little gardening, they're getting a little produce, and that's one kind of gardening. And then there are the Pratt Street gardeners who have a 20 by 20 foot plot that's really providing a lot of produce for their family. And I think both are valid. So I think maybe there's a way to think about different size plots. Some are in ground, some are above ground, so that people can find what they need here.
So that's a great point. I will say we do quite a few community gardens for the trustees of reservations, and their standard plot size generally around 10 by 15. So kind of somewhere in the middle there. But we really need to take this to a next level and kind of look at topography and how it all fit together. Anyone else? We have great questions today and great dialogue. This is going to be really helpful. Yes, Erica. I remember you. um, yeah. Okay. Erica's question was, will there be a manager of the garden? Um, what? How will the maintenance work? Doing. Where's Mary? She went over there. Okay. Just in terms of maybe some of your other gardens, how that every community is different, so I don't want to speak for you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think typically there is a volunteer coordinator for most of the gardens that we have around. So I think that's one of the things we might expect to happen in this situation. But I think that it probably depends partly on what we end up deciding to build, how big it is, who's involved, and figure out a management strategy that works for that.
I'm just thinking about like paper products, like people that put in like fans, plastics that go around. I mean, we have a lot of debris here. Already kind of combating like the plastic dog waste and the dog waste in itself. So I'm just thinking about maintenance of the park. Yep.
Maintenance of the park. Maintenance of the park.
Thank you. Jim Snyder, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. So we do work closely with the Pratt Street Garden and with Merchant Road. Certainly, I am also interested in the kind of the long-term maintenance plan of this and how it folds in. We do have some elected officials here. What it will mean is some additional monies in our operations budget, perhaps some additional monies in our personnel budget to be able to come out here and maintain it the way it should be. So it's a team effort. I think this is the planning stage. I think the city needs to get together on the budgeting stage and also make sure that we have the resources to properly maintain these parks.
I appreciate you saying that while the house is going through the budget process. Yeah, thank you. I'm fourth generation here, so I'm super passionate about keeping the neighborhood really, on the upscale.
Thank you, Val. That's great. Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Another question. Yep.
I don't really have a question. Honestly, I just like to talk for anyone that doesn't know me. I'm Andrea. If that White House weren't there, you could see my house. We live over on Benson, but we love this park. My son grew up here. He's 21 now. But what I really, really want to say is thank you. Thank you to the people that make this happen. So there are people like all of us that, we hear about a meeting and we show up, right? Oh, cool, let me go find. But there are people that are doing the work. Mary, Allison, Jim, thank you. Thank you, because these kind of things don't just happen, and we don't just get the CPA money for no reason. Allison went after it and got it. So thank you, because things like this really bring our community together. I think it's a wonderful addition. I'm the ex-president of the Neighborhood Association, so for anyone that's never been, we invite you to come the third Monday of every month, and Allison comes and gives updates, and we have a lot of stuff like this that we talk about, and we'd love to see your faces there. So sorry for getting a little plug in for the neighborhood. April 22nd at Barbieri at 6:30, and Dr. Tremblay is coming to talk about the schools, and we talk about a lot of cool things. So if you're not on the email list, get on the email list. But really, I wanted to say thank you. Thank you very much to the people that are really making this happen.
Thank you.
I see two plots for the garden. Is that either or is that both?
Option 1 and option 2.
Okay.
Just trying to get a sense of the location. And we've had a lot. Yeah, we've had a lot of good pros and cons of both. So, are you? Yeah, do you want to do the elements, park elements?
Yep, so we'll put that up here.
Okay, let me go get that.
Yep. Okay, thank you all for all these great questions. I want to just introduce what we're going to spend the last 15 minutes of our meeting on. Oh, sorry, and my name is Allison. I'm one of the project coordinators for this. So for the last 15 minutes of our meeting, we have a couple of like interactive activities that you guys can participate in. One thing that we're going to have is Mary. Where's Mary? Mary is back in the back, and she has a questionnaire on a clipboard, and it would be great if everybody could fill out this questionnaire. Only 5 questions. We'd love everybody to respond to them so we can take that feedback and incorporate it into our next step. Second, right here on this board, Ray is going to put up a second board with some images of possible garden features. And we'd love it if you want to come and vote on the images that you think you would like to see most in a future garden at this site. And then third, if anybody wants to walk around the park and look up close at either of these locations or anything else, we can also do that with you. Finally, just a couple of reminders. We have a handout on the sign-in table. We would love it if you go home today and you think of something else you wish you told us. We absolutely want to know that. So please send us an email. That information is on the handout, and also on the back of that handout, we have a save the date for our next meeting, which is going to be a follow-up to this conversation where we'll actually look at some designs that are developed based on what you told us today. So May 4th is the date we would like you to put on your calendar and hold that to be able to come and see what your feedback has led to. We will have the location soon, but May 4th is the date. And I think that's it. Anyway, thank you all. Oh, one more thing. If you did not sign in when you arrived, we would love it if you would sign in for us so we can have a record of who was here today. Thank you all. This is great. We really appreciate you coming out.